Hey, welcome back, everybody. I want to talk about pricing today, and of course, I'm going to start with an old story. Um, Many years ago, and this was way back in the '80s, back when all quotes were analog, right? We didn't even have computers and laptops to generate quotes. Quotes. We were typing them up if we got that formal. And I was sitting. We just finished the last day of a large convention. I had a huge crew there at a staffing company at that time. Had 40 or 50 people working at the Anatole in Dallas doing some big medical convention. And I'm sitting down having cocktails with the account executive for the AV company that was there, that was managing it. And we were probably about three drinks in, and we were talking about changes in pricing, and we had just finished, negotiating my bill and arguing about my hours and everything. But he was a good guy. He's very conciliatory about that, and took ownership of all the changes and schedules and things that happen. That's normal in that environment. And he allowed me to bill for some things that were a judgment call when I recognized there was a gap and we needed to put a body in there, and did, without being able to get approval. And he goes, nope, that was the right thing to do. So good conversation. But I was very interested in the rental business. I was thinking I wanted to start an AV company. I was asking him about pricing. What do you do with the clients who, you know, I'm looking at your orders saying, hey, they won't pay for this. We can't use this, that sort of thing. And, each room was specced out very, very carefully by item. And all of that was theoretically not negotiable, but we were constantly doing add-ons and changes. And I said, well, help me understand how all that works. And he just laughed. He says, look, I got this job because we're always the low bidder. And we get it 3 years at a time, but I make sure we are always the low bidder because that's all they think they're getting. They think they're getting the lowest price. And as he's doing this, he's reaching into his pocket and he's pulling out a pen. And I don't have a pen here. I'm going to hold a pencil because that's what I write with. And he's holding out his pen. He goes, Tom, all that pricing stuff, all those things and those catalogs that we send out to the clients to say, hey, here's how much a slide projector costs. Here's a tripod screen, a microphone, sound system, blah blah blah. Here's what all that costs. He goes, that's not what makes money. I said, okay. I'm going, yeah. I kind of thought it was, right? No, because that's not what makes money. And he holds up his pen and he holds it up in front of his face and he looks at the tip of the pen and he looks at me and he looks back at the tip of the pen. He goes, Tom, this is what makes money. This is what makes money. Okay. When the customer asks for something that wasn't on the quote, they don't have a price for it. I use the price that I think is appropriate. Anything that I gave away to encourage the customer to hire this, I can take back again when they start changing their minds about things. And that's just the nature of the business. And at the time I was thinking, wow, that just sounds a little bit sketchy and dishonest. But then I started thinking about it. Everything we do in life is kind of that way. You order the special at a restaurant, you get the upgrade on your car. There's always something where something is bundled in, but something's left out that turns out to be really important. And this is how you get people to help cover your margin. Now, I said, well, what would happen if they never added anything? He says, well, one, it never happens. Okay. Always count on things to change. That's the one thing that's absolutely never changes in this business, is that everything will change. Therefore, you always have opportunity to price things differently. Now, if this seems disingenuous, then keep listening. How you price doesn't matter as long as the customer is happy with the ROI they got. And that's what I took away from that. The customer didn't feel like he was, you know, nitpicking and cheating them out of a little extra money with add-ons. They were looking at the ROI. Did the panic go away? Was the speaker taken care of? What did it cost? Oh, thank goodness that's all it was. This is the recurring pattern that was happening over again. And I started to realize, I was thinking about this story the other day and realized, hey, I'm about to do a podcast that talks about how we can build pricing for our events, for our big projects from the old rental model. And guess what? Here it is. So listen up. It's going to freak out your salespeople because I'm going to change some math on them.
Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now on to the show.
So we all want to be respected, and honesty is the path to that respect. If you want your customers to respect you, be honest, remember everything you told them, do what you said you were going to do, be consistent. Now, here's where I'm struggling, and here's where I'm frustrated. Our rental pricing model is inherently dishonest. How could anybody respect our industry with the way that we price? Well, Tom, we're not inconsistent on your pricing. Oh, really? Why don't we open up some of your quotes and take a look? Let's look at this 5-day job that you charge the client 2 days for. Let's look at this week-long job that you charge them 2.5 days for. Here's a 5-day job you charged 3 days. Here's a 1-day job you charged a half a day. Here's a 2-day job you charged 1 day, right? Oh, you changed the price on this. You gave this thing away for free. You lowered this labor rate, right? There's nothing consistent or honest about your pricing. It's completely situational, and I haven't even talked about discounts. So there is no standard pricing model in our industry. You make it up as you go along, but this is not the same as my old account executive buddy with his pen. This is us playing fast and loose with information that we don't understand and expecting our clients to be dumb enough to not follow along with what we're doing. And God forbid one of your customers talk to two different salespeople in your organization and get pricing on the same job from 2 different people, because it's not going to match. It won't. Okay? Unless you're doing some sort of like centralized quoting system, it's not going to match. There are too many variables. The odds of 2 people coming up with the same number is almost impossible. So rental pricing seems honest until you look at how it's structured. Okay. Now, what replaces that honesty? Okay, or that apparent dishonesty? The way we are getting around this dishonest pricing system that we've all inherited and grown up with is we eventually get to our best price. And then we have to go backwards and try and figure out how to make our rental pricing system match what we finally agreed to with the client. And a smart client's going to go, look, I'm not going to pay a penny over $100,000 for this job. You go figure out all the details and put the numbers where you want. Oh, okay. Well, all of a sudden that kind of changes everything, doesn't it? So now which numbers do you change? There's the rub. So estimating today means that we need to consider cost plus margin. I've said this over and over again. It has nothing to do with your price sheets or what you think your prices are or what you think your charges are, because your cost basis varies all the time. Now, you can adapt your pricing to your cost basis, or you can adjust your margins based on demand and seasonality. But the fact is, now we're only working with 2 numbers. We're working with the cost, which is measurable, and we're looking at the margin, which is aspirational. So how much margin do you aspire to make? Now, we do have challenges in that we sell services, which includes rental equipment, and I'm making air quotes with my fingers here, is that we're also saying, here are the tools I'm going to need to do this job, and here's what they cost, and here's what the talent costs to do this, and here's what it costs to get the talent there, and here's what it costs to get the equipment there, and here's what it costs because I wasn't really sure about how much money we should make, so I put this little extra number in here and hope that you don't notice it, right? This is what we're doing, right? Now, that's middle school math because it's really simple. It's middle school because it's not just addition. We sometimes have quantities and multipliers. We have discounts. So there's division involved, or a different kind of multiplication if that's your mathematical ilk. So we have these methodologies for getting around it. But if you're going to use your rental pricing model, your inherently dishonest, unobjective, used indiscriminately model on your best customers, please follow a few of these very, very simple tips so that your life will go better. And I know most of you are not out there sending out the line item pricing quotes that we did 20 years ago. Thank you. Good for you. You've been paying attention. You may not even have learned it from me. You just found out that you didn't have to do that because customers would take advantage of you if you start itemizing things and say, well, no, you don't need to send that. Well, I do need to send that. It doesn't work without it. Well, I don't want to pay for it. Right? You're eliminating those conversations by showing the customer a slightly different way of getting to the same price, but you're still using the same inherently honest rental model to get there. So how can we make this work a little bit better for you? Number one thing I want you to do, and I learned this, gosh, I learned this so early in my career, even before my AV career. When you have to price things that are not normally in your system and you call somebody and get a quote and say, hey, I need an LED wall, give me a pricing model that I can use for this, put that in your system. Don't just write it down on a piece of scratch paper and tuck it away on your desk and pull it out when you need it. Put it in your system so that you can use it again and that other people in your organization can use it again. We are pricing, 2.6 LED tiles at $450 a square meter per week. There. Now everybody can use it. And I know I can price it at that because I know I can buy it for $300. So I'm going to charge $450, 50% margin markup. Good for you. 33% margin. You at least did some decent middle school math. But you need to use it in a way that you can use it again instead of making it a bespoke price every single time. So put it in your system. When you have non-optional items in a package, for instance, in other words, we're doing a ballroom corporate event, we put in cameras, and then you add a camera studio kit, an engineering package. And the client goes, well, I don't need all that. Can they just point the camera? If they even know what it is? And you're like, well, no, that would be unprofessional. We can't do our best work. Well, why did you put it in there and make it look like it was an option? It's not an option. Just change your nomenclature. Full studio camera system, full studio package. Boom, one item. Now, do they even need to see the price? Maybe, maybe not. If it's a baseline option, in other words, it's something that is not optional, it's required for the job, I don't need to do a line item price on that. Okay. So if it is not optional, don't give the client pricing that makes it look like it's optional. It's part of the basic request. It's an entree, right? Everything that comes on the entree, well, can you substitute? Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Get to that baseline pricing. So group non-optional items together and leave it that way. That's how you price it. If you have optional choices within a non-negotiable package, you've got to separate them out completely. I'll give you an example. We're going into the ballroom. The client wants to put the audience wide. So we have a shallow depth of ballroom. We're wide left and right. I don't need long lenses on the cameras. Therefore, my baseline package has the 2 cameras with studio packages in it. That's part of my scope of work. But then the client says, oh, we're thinking about changing this into doing the audience deep. Okay, great. So how will that affect my pricing? Well, it doesn't affect the baseline pricing. What it affects is the optional pricing, which you're now putting in another group that says, option or enhancement for placing the audience deep, in which case now I'm adding the long lenses and accessories and better stands to go with those cameras. So we're making the subtleties very obvious. We're showing them exactly what they can control in terms of pricing. And your rental pricing system needs to be set up this way to allow you to do this, right? The whole point of all of this is that when you're presenting a price to a customer on something that is packageable, for instance, getting the show done for your clients, the event, the load in, the rehearsals, the show, the load out, that event should have one negotiating price. You may have lots of pre-production or creative or content support that goes in front of that. Each element of that should have one negotiating point and nothing else. And what I mean by that, in our rental model, If our negotiating point was the price of the line item, the price of the accessory, the multiplier on the line items, the comped items, the multiplier for the entire event, the discount on the entire event, there's too many variables. Okay, you're trying to pull one over on me. So we want to get this down to a very, very simple package so the client can say, I understand how you got to the price. I see what my discount is. You're giving me a $50,000 discount. I'd like a $80,000 discount. Great. Now you're negotiating one item. Good for you. That was the goal. Now we can go one step further and making sure that we're very clear of how to use that negotiating number. Let me explain. If you put any kind of a discount on a quote, whatever it is, it has got to be tied to something. There are no discounts just because there's a volume of gear here. A discount without terms and conditions is a useless pricing tool. You're just basically saying, oh, hey, I'm stupid. Here's some money back. I got my math wrong, right? Let's get rid of the middle school math and say, hey, would you like to pay me less money? Here's how you do it. You pay me sooner, you confirm sooner. So if we say, hey, the due date, the final, this proposal was only good until February 15th. Okay. After that, we withdraw our proposal. If you come back to us, we will reprice it. However, if you confirm by February 1st, I can extend an extra $30,000 discount. I've still got one negotiating point. And they get to choose whether they want to take the discount. If money is really important to them, they will. Or if they just want to be in control, in which case they're going to try and get that discount for the February 15th deadline. But at the end of the day, you're still negotiating one thing, and we're not going through all the line items and having the client try and say, well, do we really need this? Do we really need that? I'm not putting anything in here you don't need. I'm not putting in things in here just to make my job easier. I'm putting things in here so that your job will go as well as you're telling me you want it to go. And this is what it takes to do it correctly. So if we're going to use rental pricing to develop our quotes and our numbers, make sure that you're doing some of the basic work so that you can be consistent, okay? You're not showing the client 5 unattached variables, and that you yourself are crystal clear for your team what your pricing expectations are. So we're all working off the same playbook in the same numbers, because the last thing you want to do is have salesman A customer go talk to salesman B and say, why is he charging me so much? And they look at it and go, I don't know. That's not what I would charge you. I would charge you this. What did that just do? We just opened up Pandora's box. And it's because your system doesn't understand how to make money, and therefore your sales team doesn't understand how to make money. Now, this will take us into high school math. There's going to be a little bit of algebra in some of this. We are going to have to divide and multiply, and we're going to have to work with multiple variables. But the fact is, we can get to one number for our client, and we can make it crystal clear to them how they can get a better number if that's really what's important to them. So there you go. Tell your sales team to calm down. Quit trying to manipulate so many different variables. Take some of those tools away from them so that we can get down to a solid pricing, so we can have honest conversations with our customers instead of trying to make money on the backside. Thanks for listening.
If you liked this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast, please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Mertz Crew.